today. It's that Monday morning feeling. Just allow a couple extra minutes here. All right. Well, we'll give 2 minutes and then we'll get started with class here today. Looks like we have a few stragglers this morning. While we're waiting on others to check in, I'm going to do a quick check-in with everybody. If you guys will, in the chat, let me know if you have what you've completed on testing on the class marker. So just in the chat, put which modules you've done. If you've done 1, 2, or I don't know that anybody's done all 3, but whatever you've done. Thank you, Tony. Okay. Amon and Don, thank you both. Mark, thank you. Morning, Eduardo.
Good morning.
I can't get my chat to work.
Should be in that more button. You should be able to see your chat.
I have a chat button, but when I click it, it doesn't do anything for me.
It should show you a screen at the bottom that you can go. Okay, thank you, Tyler.
Oh, there we go.
Nelson, welcome. Nelson and Eduardo, you guys just join us. If you can, in the chat portion of our classroom, if you will just put what you've completed online on the class marker testing, where you're at on that. Okay, so just type it in the chat. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning. Sorry,
Christina, no worries. If you'll just put in the chat box what you've completed on the class marker testing.
Oh, the modules?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So everybody, welcome to our Monday morning class. It's a little bit of a quiet class today. The good news is we don't have a lot of group discussion today. As we get into our last module, this is kind of the wrap up of above floor stuff. So it's the almost landing spot of the other project work that occurs in the building. So we will spend a little bit of time with that. I'm not recording this session just because all these videos have been placed into the Google Classroom, which is what we'll draw from quite a bit today. And so, but as I mentioned, this is where, when it comes to project work, you know, we've dealt with the project work of dealing with hard floors, you know, whether it was resilient, concrete, wood, now carpeted flooring. So we've dealt with our flooring. Now we deal with the other areas of the building. And that will include things like window cleaning, wall cleaning, ceiling cleaning, cleaning of things in a kitchen area, such as a hood or something along those lines. It focuses in on those things. So there's a lot of details. There's also some safety issues that need to be addressed, because when you start dealing with project work above the floor, you start to deal with ladders or scaffolding, especially if you're doing large areas. You may have to deal with some scaffolding things. So this lesson will cover a lot of that. If you have not already done so this week, the assignment is to read over this lesson and go ahead and get your testing moving forward on that one. There's a lot of details on this one. I'll be honest with you. In all the testing of all the lessons, this one was the hardest for me. And mainly because it had some specific details that, because we don't use it all the time, required a little bit more. What does the book tell us? For example, about scaffolding. It talks about the proper use of scaffolding and certain height requirements and so forth. So from that standpoint, we won't cover every little detail of it. We're going to focus in on what my part of the teaching on this one is the practical part of it, what we will deal with most often. And that is going to deal with more of the window cleaning, the removing of hard water spots on windows, and as well dealing with some of the ceiling or wall cleaning issues and kind of deal with those. On Wednesday, we will just do a review of this lesson, and as well focus a little bit of time and attention more on our project cleaning of our project for next week, our final project. So, and for all of you that have sent me over information, I will be reviewing that throughout my breaks this afternoon in class and as well tomorrow. So check your emails late tomorrow afternoon. I'll be sending information back to you guys. And on Wednesday, we'll spend some time doing some formatting and setting up of that stuff so it'll look good for you guys on your presentations. So, okay. So with that being said, I do want to wrap up one last thing on carpet cleaning. And before we, or after we do this, we'll just take a brief minute to review that, and then we'll discuss, move into our above floor. So share a video with you from ISSA, and like I said, we'll go from there.
Hi, I'm Bo with ISSA TV. Have you ever wondered why your carpets don't come as clean as you'd like them to when you extract? Think about this. Carpet cleaning is not much different than cleaning a lasagna pan. When you clean a lasagna pan, guys, we all know the best way to do it is to add a little dish soap and hot water and let it soak overnight. When you wake up the next morning, You rinse out the pan, scrub it just a small bit, and it's clean. Carpet care is the same way. If you're not satisfied with the results you're getting, it's probably because you're not incorporating the 5 principles of cleaning. You see, just like your lasagna pan, your carpet fibers have sticky soils in them. So the first step in getting your carpets clean is to remove all the dry soil with a vacuum. Statistically speaking, 79% of the soil in your carpet is dry and best removed with a vacuum. So, before you put any moisture into the carpet, be sure you vacuum it thoroughly. The next step is probably one of the most critical, and that's soil suspension, which is just like putting dish soap and water in a lasagna pan. Putting a good pre-spray down and agitating it into the carpet will allow the chemical to have time to break down the soils that are stuck to the carpet fibers, so that when you get to the third step, extraction, you're actually able to remove them from the carpet. The last 2 steps are grooming for cut pile carpet and drying. You should try and get your carpets dry within 6 to 8 hours. So next time you're extracting, remember the lasagna pan. Just like you would add dish soap and hot water and let the lasagna pan sit, add pre-spray, hot water, and agitate. Give it 10 to 15 minutes and then extract.
So a nice little just reminder of the important tips when it comes to carpet cleaning, giving pre-spray some dwell time and allowing it to work. I will tell you, we've already gotten comments on how nice the carpet looks inside. So we came out good there, guys. Some of you may have heard my comment on Saturday that we'll see how everybody feels about it. So, no, it looks good, and they were quite happy with it. I will tell you this. One thing that may have occurred, at some point, we were all in and out of a couple rooms, and room 10, where we were storing some stuff, at some point, somehow the thermostat got adjusted to 50 degrees. So they came into a very, very cold room this morning with that. So it's something Teresa and I were talking about, just, doing those checks. And we have to be aware if we're setting things up against stuff that we may have something that might bump up against a thermostat or something. We have to be aware of that. So just something that I'm not sure how it happened, but when it comes to cleaning, the custodial staff is the one that, we're the last ones out of the building. So we're the ones that they ask questions about. And we have to be able to make sure that we leave the building in a good shape for everybody to come into. So anyhow, as I mentioned, things went well. That was, good results from what we did. The vacuuming afterwards, things turned out very nice, and a good interim maintenance cleaning that we did. So good job, you guys. We move into hard floor, and so, or not hard floor, the above floor areas. Let me bring up our Google Classroom. And when you guys look into your book, starting on page 91 is where that lesson begins. And just a few objectives about above floor cleaning as far as the project work. This lesson focuses in on window and glass cleaning, ceiling cleaning, wall cleaning, and then lamp and light fixture cleaning. Okay. What you guys should be able to do when you finish up this lesson is understand which cleaning agents you might use to remove different soil types. What equipment you would use for doing it, what materials, what supplies you would use, and then obviously the process. So just like all other cleaning methods, we want to do that. But keeping in mind, we're dealing with a lot of different methods here, because when we deal with window cleaning, we're talking about one thing. When we're dealing with the ceiling cleaning or wall cleaning, we're doing some other things. So we'll go through that. We're going to start with some things about window cleaning in our discussion today, and then we'll move forward. And I'm not going to go into all the chemicals or equipment or supplies. I'll let you guys do that in your reading assignments. I'm going to show you, like I said, the practical part of this and some techniques, but also things that we will utilize on Saturday when we do some of the window washing. And we're going to use a couple of these techniques. Did you guys have a chance, by the way, to look at those windows that we're dealing with on the front of that building? Anybody notice anything in particular on the windows?
I don't know what it's called, like the hard water or whatever.
Exactly.
Little water stains.
Yep, water spotting.
Yeah, they're dirty.
Yeah, they're dirty. Yep.
Yeah, they're across from a field, right? An open dirt lot.
Yeah, so we have that, and we also have a lot of industrial area, and we have a train that comes through there. So a lot of reasons why that building's going to get dusty and dirty. Yep. And Christina, good catch. You saw the water spotting. Did you guys notice where the water spotting was on the windows?
Where the sprinklers usually
at
hit.
the bottom.
Yeah, it was towards the bottom where the sprinklers hit. Yep, exactly. And that's not uncommon. It's interesting because some of the areas in Sacramento, there's a couple office buildings not too far from where we're at, over closer towards Rancho Cordova, that have, I've noticed really bad water spotting. In fact, there was one building that's right off of Highway 50 that I recall seeing all the time passing through that corridor because it has these tinted windows. And from the freeway, you could see the mineral deposits and hard water that has built up on those windows. So no matter what you do to remove the dust and soil, window washing is only going to remove that. To remove the calcium or mineral deposits becomes project work. It's not something that just comes off with normal window cleaning, and we can never expect that it will. So we have to treat those specifically. And to be honest with you, minerals, as they build up on a surface, especially on glass, can become permanently etched into the glass. And it requires some extreme techniques. But in some cases, it can get to the point where it's going to take multiple cleanings to get it off because those minerals have developed almost in layers over time. So, and that's a good question, Tony. I will show you a system that just recently has been developed, and there's a couple others that have been developed to protect the glass from hard water stains. So let's go into, just briefly, we'll go over the window cleaning techniques, and you'll realize that what we're talking about primarily on window cleaning is going to be the use of a squeegee cleaning system. And let me post this real quick. Okay. So in our window cleaning, I'm going to show you two videos, one of which I showed to some of you in the last class, so some of you will recognize it. But this one is just a basic window cleaning one about, for those who aren't familiar or comfortable with the S video, it works incredibly well. So. Somebody took down that video within the last hour, so give me a second, guys. We'll go to the next one here.
I'm going to teach you guys the S technique. So a lot of the window cleaners, at least
when I first started, you know, depending on what skill level you're at, will depend on what technique you're using.
So I'm going to point out a couple tools that he's using. He's got a window squeegee here in one hand. The other hand, he is using what's called a strip washer. So pay attention to that tool. It's what he applied the window cleaning solution with. We're going to use this out of a bucket, a rectangular bucket when we do it. But his method that he does, because he's a professional window cleaner, he has a bucket on his belt that is almost like a holster that he'll put his window strip washer into.
If you're coming just straight across, maybe drying your squeegee, coming across again, you know, that's an okay technique. But you're getting, come over here and look at this. You're getting all this water here that's escaping out. You're really having to squeeze or to dry your glass. It takes a lot more time in the long run. So here's another technique that's called the S. This is what I want to teach you guys today. So it's the idea that if you put your squeegee on the glass and pull down, you're going to leave an inch of water. Or if you come at it from the side, it's going to cut the water perfect line. No water's getting drugged down onto the clean glass. So what you want to do, and you can start anywhere. You can start down here, you can start here. It doesn't really matter, just as long as you go over where you first started. So if I start here, I'm going to have to come back around and go over where I started, okay? Personally, I like starting in the middle, and then cut back over, back down, back over.
Sorry about my sluggish internet here. Let's do this. We'll give it a second to load a little bit more fully.
Middle, and then cut back. Back over, back down, back over, till you get it down to a point that it's one squeegee swipe, okay? So as I get back over here and I'm coming across, come over, finish it, and then I like to squeegee all this water off the ledge. Okay, you squeegee the water off, squeegee the water off the side, and then I don't use the rubber underneath, I use the metal. Because if you use the rubber, you're gonna create like a groove in the squeegee and you're gonna have to throw it away. So you come across with the metal, get all those drips of water falling down so you're not gonna screw up your window once you walk away from it. So we'll go over that again. Get that wet. So the technique that I teach my guys as I'm training them is you need to keep your eye on the end that you're leading with. So your highest part of your squeegee. So if you're coming across here, you need to watch this edge. You want to watch it go right. It doesn't matter what the side's doing. It doesn't matter if there's streaks here. You'll come back and catch those. So you come up and you watch this edge. Watch this edge and you're turning the whole time. You don't want to get to here and then turn and then come down. Then you're going to get all these lines and mess ups. So it's got to be a fluid motion, okay? Once I get down here, then I switch directions. I start watching this. I make sure this goes higher than all the other water, okay? Watching this right here. And then I flip back around and I'm watching this end. Or this end, they cut down the mountain is the technique that I've heard used. So you just watch this end, and then once you get to this side, you can finish it off like that. Squeegee at the top, squeegee the side, just a little bit, and then underneath, metal, you get a nice window. With this technique, the S, you're usually going to always always need to wipe your edges. You've got, quite a bit of water here on this edge, quite a bit there, here. So you grab your towel and touch it up real quick. Run it. Make sure when you wipe those edges, you're only using, one finger or two fingers in that towel. You don't want to squish all that water out forward. So you don't want to use all four fingers and wipe. If you're more than a finger width of water out from the frame of the glass, you've left too much water and you need to re-squeegee it. If you're trying to wipe off 2 inches of water with your towel, all you're going to do is leave a ton of
So again, some of you already have seen this video before, but it's one of the better videos as far as showing that S technique method. This guy has a good fluid motion to it, and he has a good system of doing this. So from that standpoint, if you're doing large amounts of windows and you see with that strip washer how quickly he can wash that, he'll do a bank of windows like this very quickly. So from that standpoint, it's a very effective method. However, the challenge lies when you are doing higher windows. He's doing things that he can reach within arm's length. What do you do about those higher windows? So from that, let me show you a method that can be used
if there's water left
for doing the higher window cleaning. And this is from Unger window washing. Now, Unger and Atori are two of the major manufacturers of window washing tools. In fact, Unger moved from just making commercial window cleaning products for professionals into making stuff that you can buy at Home Depot and Lowe's all the time. So they're one of the biggest manufacturers of this in the world. They developed a system using deionized water. Now, we're probably all familiar with the concept of deionized water because if you take your car to a car wash anymore, it's spot-free washes nowadays, right? It'll blow off all the excess water, but whatever's left there doesn't leave water spotting. And that's because it uses deionized water. And what that does is it's basically the concept of soft water. We're removing the minerals out of it, anything that would cause water spotting. Because remember, what is water spots? What are they made up of? Nelson, you're muted.
Calcium?
Calcium, yep.
Yeah.
Calcium, magnesium, other minerals that are in the water. So when we remove that minerals from the water, which can occur through several different ways of doing it, that allows that water to just dry easily. So let's look at two videos. One of them is a real short one from Unger that simply shows the brush system. So let me share that with you. So when you watch this, this is from inside the window, and you'll see it's a time lapse that takes, probably over a few minutes, but they're spraying it on with a brush system. Watch what happens. There's no sound to this. The water that's left on there just evaporates off the window. Okay. Leaving a nice clean window. So let's take a look at it from the actual window cleaning tool standpoint. Give me a second. Let me prepare this.
Every day, outdoor.
Every day, outdoor windows are cleaned with inadequate tools and unnecessary chemicals, multi-step processes, and unsafe ladders and rigging. There is a better way, a safer way. Unger's hydropower DI Pure Water Window Cleaning System keeps workers firmly on the ground while leaving windows spotless. When paired with an Nlight carbon pole, the hydropower DI cleans windows up to 5 stories high, eliminating the risk of ladder fall injuries. Easy to assemble and simple to use, the compact and efficient hydropower DI utilizes Unger's quick change resin bags to filter basic tap water into pure deionized water. And because pure deionized water attracts dirt and grime, there is no need for detergents or chemicals. Windows are cleaned in a single step. No squeegees, no clogs, leaving a spot-free finish and reducing the environmental impact to the surrounding area. Once your windows are clean, the hydropower DI stores easily, allowing for frequent access and use. Faster, cleaner.
So let me go back in this video just briefly, and I want to show you guys a couple of the tools and things associated with this. So first of all, this pole that they're using is a carbon fiber pole. It was designed so that instead of using aluminum, it's using a flexible type of material that's lighter in weight, and it's feeding the water up the pole through the unit that you'll see in just a second. So I'm going to mute this. And you'll notice they're working at an angle to be able to get effectively up there. This could do up to about 3 stories tall, around 50 feet in the air. So fantastic for doing large areas. The unit itself here, water is connected to it, and it's using a filter bag. That's the media that helps to filter out all of the minerals and so forth into that. These bags are designed that they do have to be replaced periodically, typically after a period of hours of use. I believe it's typically somewhere around 100 hours of use. They would replace those bags. So you see he's putting in a replacement bag. Real simple system. It's connected to a water hose, and it provides just enough pressure to be able to reach that high amount. So a real simple system to be able to clean windows without having to go to trying to squeegee that. And you imagine, dealing with second and third floor windows, how difficult that could be. Nelson, you had a comment or question?
Yes, to replace the bag, how much did the bag cost?
I don't have all the pricing. I know the units themselves run anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 for the entire system. And that includes all the poles, the unit, and so forth. So it's an investment that a facility would make. In comparison, though, and this is what's an interesting fact, if you are dealing with window washing above the second and third floor, what they have found is paying a company to come out with a scissor lift to do those windows. This pays for itself within 1 year. So the return on investment is fantastic. And the filter bag media is costly, but it's not nearly as costly as the tooling itself. The fiber poles, those are pricey because they're designed in such a way to be able to reach large areas. So I don't know the pricing on that exactly, Nelson, but I know that it's still less expensive than paying somebody to come out and use lifts or ladders or other systems that are used. Most of the time, what you will see happen in a large building, if it's above 3 stories, they're going to have one of two things. They're either going to have a window washing system that hooks up to the top of the building and allows them to drop down the building. And you'll see guys on these window washing lifts that raise and lower up and down the building doing these windows. And you'll see a lot of that in very large high-rise buildings in places like San Francisco or LA or Sacramento even has a few of those. So from that standpoint, it becomes a very skilled profession because then you're using more of the window washing techniques you saw the first gentleman use. But think about that. Would you want to be the guy who's sitting on the lift on the outside of a building, 15 stories up in the air or 30 stories in the air? You definitely don't want to have a fear of heights. Safety becomes a major issue because now you're going to be strapped in. And a lot of times, in addition to the lift, you'll have a harness that is also secured to the building so that if the lift were to fail, you're harnessed in and that way you're not going to fall. So there's these things of safety becomes a major issue when we're dealing with window cleaning. So, when you look at this, we focus in on what we can do. And most of the time as custodians or janitors, we typically are dealing with first floor windows, anything, on the first floor below. But you may have a situation where you have to deal with a 2 or 3 story building. Hospitals, that may be the case. These kind of systems work incredibly well, and a lot of facilities have gone to them because they do such a great job, and we can do it from the ground much safer. Anytime we can be on the ground, 2 feet planted on the ground, that's the safest way to clean. Anytime we have to be on a lift, scaffolding, or ladders, risk level goes incredibly high. So, thoughts or questions about this before we move on past some of the window cleaning concepts?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
So if we clean the outside, and let's say you're using that particular style, but what about the inside?
Good question. So let me show you that. So 2 ways that we deal with window cleaning on the inside.
I can read it.
A lot of times on the inside, you will find that is done through, you can still use a window squeegee system,
Okay.
drying the window.
Okay.
So you could use similar to what we just did. Okay. But let me show you another, and it's not my thing of windows, but I had seen it earlier today. So there's a new system, and because 2 of you have asked questions about this, I'll show you this. So give me a second here to load it. Unger has developed a new tool that works incredibly well for dealing with interior windows and as well dealing with the issue that Mark mentioned. You asked, or not Mark, Tony, you asked, is there a wax or sealant that can be applied to the glass to help with this? So this system,
I use something like that for my shower because I have all glass and I don't like the water spots and stains and all that fun stuff. So I do use something like that in my shower.
Okay. Well, let me show you this, and give me a second because I have to go to Unger specific site. I wasn't planning on showing it, but since you guys asked enough questions, I think this is the answer to your questions. So give me a second here. So Unger recently developed this, and it's called the Stingray system. So let me share my screen with you guys.
Windows do not clean themselves. People clean them. often using inefficient methods in unsafe situations. The Unger Stingray's breakthrough technology and design shows us a better way to clean windows more efficiently, while keeping workers safe. Designed to clean up to 18 feet, the Stingray's cleaning solution is activated from the handle, eliminating overspray so chemicals are not airborne. The unique triangular design of the Stingray lightweight rotating cleaning pad cleans indoor windows up to 25% faster. Powered by Scotchguard protection, the Stingray's cleaning solution reduces the need to clean glasses often in high traffic areas by preventing smudges and fingerprints, cleaning up to 1,600 square feet of windows before replenishment. With the Unger Stingray, your windows are cleaned faster and better, all while keeping your workers safe. Windows still need to be cleaned. That hasn't changed. The way we clean them has. Compact, all-in-one, award-winning design. 25% faster, 100% effective. Unger, quality tools for smart cleaning.
So the cool thing in our industry is, we're constantly addressing challenges, and the innovation is getting faster and faster with new technologies. We're combining ideas. Christina mentioned you're using a system that is a window protector. Window protectors have been around for probably close to 20 years. There are different polymer kind of technologies where you can apply it to the glass and it protects it, and it slows down the water spotting. It won't stop the water spotting, because if you don't reapply it after a period of time, then you can end up with some water spotting. But this should make it a lot easier and easy to remove the water spots. What this system did is combine the lightweight poles, a microfiber type of tooling with a pump application, and then the chemical that adds a protector on there, so that as it's being cleaned, what it's leaving behind is serving to protect it and prevent finger smudges, water spotting, those things. So great technologies coming together, and that's what I like about how our industry is progressing. The one thing I would encourage you guys to do is, from the standpoint of when you guys get into, if you're cleaning, if you're working at a school site or whatever, periodically check in with vendors, and a lot of times these decisions are being made by management. That's wonderful. But sometimes you're going to see things that you can bring to your supervisor or manager and say, hey, I found out about this and it works incredibly well. Is this something that would be doable for us? Now, honestly, the larger the school district, the slower the wheels turn on those things. But at the same time, you have, for example, within Elk Grove, you have a manager who is very open to ideas. Now, if he's getting ideas from 300 custodians, he's not going to reformulate how everything gets done all the time. But if it goes through the proper channels and you find out about a technique or something that can work, absolutely share it with your supervisor, share it with your manager. They're going to look at it and discuss it and get information from those vendors. So, okay. So let's move back to the idea of the hard water stains that we mentioned, because obviously those are an issue. How do we get rid of it? Now, the video I'm about to show you, I'm going to mute out their audio because it is the guy who had it put together, chose some music that is just, if you like the 1970s, it'll be okay. So give me a second here. So they're glass restoration systems designed for dealing with hard water stains or water spots. And this is a perfect example of where the sprinklers have been hitting the building, and you could see that buildup, okay, the white scale on it. So what he's doing here is applying first a slight acidic chemical onto the glass to give it a little bit of contact and dwell time. But then what he's going to do is the powder that he's putting on, and he'll put it on to a white pad. He's going to apply that, and watch how he rubs it into the glass. This powder has some acidity to it, plus it also has some cutting action. So just a nice circular motion going over the glass. They'll take water to rinse it off. And the water is also not only rinsing it, but neutralizing the acidity. And then you can see the difference here on the right where he's clean those hard water. So there's a variety of different acidic abrasive cleaners. And remember, if we go back to our chemical lesson, we talked about the 7 different types of cleaning agents. One of those was abrasives. And we think of abrasive cleaners like powdered cleaners like Comet or Ajax that have abrasiveness to it. Those are typically alkaline in nature to deal with soap scum. Whereas an abrasive cleaner that has a little bit of acidity to it really does a good job of cutting hard water mineral deposits. The other thing I want to point out is the material he used was a white cleaning pad. It's important to be aware of the type of cleaning pad you use, because a more aggressive green cleaning pad, which you would think, hey, I want that abrasive ability, can actually scratch the glass and leave permanent scratches. And so often what can happen when you're dealing with removing of hard water stains is that in an effort to get the mineral stains off, we get too aggressive. We remove the initial mineral stain, but now we've left it scratched up, so it becomes a lot easier for the new minerals to reattach. Because remember, where did they come from in the first place? The sprinklers, right? Most of all water spotting comes from sprinkler systems. Water spots don't come from rain, right? Rain's not causing that. It doesn't have minerals in it. Mark.
When you say white cleaning pad, is that same concept as the floor pads, different colors?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's absolutely the same. The white pad that is a hand pad is the same as the polishing pad on a floor pad. It's the same material. It's just a thinner cut of it. It literally is spun from exactly the same yarn. Instead of building a floor pad out of it, they build a thin hand pad. And the same as with the green rectangular pads that they would make. Those green pads are made from the exact same material as a green floor scrubbing pad with the same cutting. So you can imagine, we use those green pads for deep scrubbing of floor to take some of the wax off. It's going to scratch the glass because it's soft.
Is that like what they sell like at Walmart, the Scotch Brite green square pads, triangular?
Exactly, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Scotch Brite is made by 3M. It's one of their brands. And They make it in a couple different ways. They have a Scotch-Brite green pad. You can get Scotch-Brite white pads. And you now can get a purple color one for stainless steel. And those work really well, not to scratch the stainless. They're more aggressive than the white pad, but not as aggressive as the green one. I still don't use those for window washing. I'll use an abrasive cleaner that's designed for it with the white pad. Nelson, you had a question.
Yes, I was thinking more like the car polish white pad.
It's similar.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, those are all it. And keep in mind, guys, these pads that are made, whether it's for, our industry or for the restaurant industry, for the car cleaning industry, they're all made by a lot of the same manufacturers. 3M is the largest manufacturer of this type of materials. They've been innovative in design of creating different products that make our life easier. 3M, whether it's adhesives or products to remove adhesives, 3M has been that leading manufacturer on that. So typically they make some of the best, and everybody tries to copy a lot of their innovation. So, okay. So window washing, the concepts are pretty simple. There's a couple different techniques. You saw the S method of window washing. We can use deionized water for doing it. What you never want to do is try and use an aerosol can or a spray bottle and towel to clean large amounts of windows. Very labor intensive, very slow process to do that. So those are good for small things, mirrors, entrance doors, glass tabletop, things like that, things along those lines. But we're not going to use a spray bottle and rag method to do large amounts of window cleaning. It's just way too labor intensive. Okay, so we move on from the window washing to something else I wanted to show you. So along the lines of window washing is the use of ladders, okay? Because if we're not using something with extension poles like you just saw, and we have to go to the route of getting up higher to be able to clean an area, then we have to be thinking in terms of how do we do that? Our book talks about access equipment, and it breaks it apart in a number of areas. The first is ladders. We're going to watch a video that was put together by the Oregon Department of Health and Safety, their OSHA department for the state of Oregon, because they did a great job with it. But our book also talks about scaffolding. And there's a couple different types of scaffolding. One is called ground support scaffolding, and it can be used up to 40 feet in height. So we could use that maybe in an interior building. And then there is smaller scaffolding, what they call pin and shaft scaffolding, that you can use up to 15 feet in height. So I'm not going to get into all the different types of scaffolding. I'm not an expert in that. It is something that you want to be aware of. We don't use a lot of this stuff, but you do want to be aware of it in your testing information. So, and then hanging scaffolding is the one I told you about that is used a lot of times, where it'll come down the building and be able to be almost like a lift for that. And then you even saw a brief clip in the Unger video, and you guys can look at that again at a later time, where a guy was hanging out the building in what looked like a harness, and it was just dangling, okay? Those are what we call the hanging chairs, where in the past you would see window washers that they would go down the side of a building, and literally it was amazing watching these guys, because they'd be sitting in a chair, they'd have their tools, and the guy would clean the window to this side, and clean the window to this side. And he'd go down again and do the next windows. And he'd work himself down a row of windows doing that. And you could have a number of guys scaling a building doing it. Not my business. I don't want to do that. I don't have too many friends that want to do that. I don't see a lot of that here in Central California. Maybe over in the Bay Area. And, again, there's going to be issues, wind issues and so forth play issues in that. Or factors. All right. So let's watch this video. This one's a little bit longer on ladder safety, because ladder safety plays a factor in now not just the window cleaning, but also interior cleaning. If we're dealing with light fixtures, we're dealing with wall cleaning, we're going to use a variety of ladders. So this video, I felt like, really captured a lot of our concerns, a lot of the things that we need to be worried about and thinking about when it comes to the use of ladders. So let's take a look. And I'll turn the sound on too.
Means a ladder that can readily be moved or carried and usually consists of side rails joined at intervals by steps, rungs, or cleats. Now, Oregon OSHA has a few additional rules for portable ladders, and those additional rules apply to...
Guys, I'm going to pause it for a second, let this thing feed. My internet's running a little slow in its...
usually consists of side rails joined at intervals by steps, rungs, or cleats. Now, Oregon OSHA has a few additional rules for portable ladders, and those additional rules apply to both non-self-supporting ladders and self-supporting ladders. A self-supporting ladder is a class of portable ladders that, by design, stand on their own when erected for use without assistance from external structures. Step ladders, double front ladders, platform ladders, trestle ladders, and articulating ladders set up as in a stepladder mode are examples of self-supporting ladders. Additionally, we have a definition for non-self-supporting ladders, and that is a class of portable ladders that, by design, must be placed against a structure independent of itself, such as a wall, to remain standing for use. Single ladders, extension ladders, sectional ladders, and articulating ladders set up in a straight ladder mode are examples of non-self-supporting ladders. So employers need to make sure that when they're instructing employees on how to set up a ladder, when they're training them on how to use a ladder, that they are training first and foremost to the manufacturer's instructions. The manufacturer knows how the ladder is designed to be used, what it is intended to be used for, and they need to be following those instructions. But generally, we want to make sure that the ground conditions are satisfactory to support the load, which is why we have rules that say you can't set ladders up on top of boxes or barrels, that sort of stuff. If it's going to be set up in outdoor situations, that the ground is firm enough, that it is level, so the foundation where you're setting up the ladder is appropriate. Next, we'd want to make sure that the location where the ladder is being set up is appropriate. So we'd always want to look overhead, make sure that there is no electrical hazards while we're setting up the ladder or where the ladder is going to be used. We'd want to make sure that the ladder is in a safe location. So a ladder that is set up in front of a doorway, and once the employee goes up on that ladder, they're trusting that no one is going to open that door and knock them off or displace them off of the ladder. So forethought needs to be put into the actual placement of the ladder. How do we block or barricade or lock that door, or post another employee in front of that door, instructing people that the door is not available for use until the person is off of the ladder. We're always going to look at non-self-supporting ladders to make sure that the ladder is set up in the correct angle to make sure that the ladder can properly support the person who is on it. And then anytime a ladder is used to gain access to a higher level, part of that setup is to make sure that the ladder is sufficiently long enough that the ladder extends a minimum of 3 feet above the point where the employee is going to be stepping off of the ladder onto the upper structure. Oftentimes, securing the ladder to prevent movement when the employee is stepping off of the ladder needs to be taken into consideration there also. So those are just a few things that an employer should think about when they're setting up the ladder. But ultimately, they're going to follow the manufacturer's instructions for ladder usage.
You know, a lot of guys don't know what the calculation is for a ladder, 1 to 4. So for every 4 feet it goes up, you have to be 1 foot back. How to check that? Because if it's too steep, you'll tip back. If it's too flat, it'll kick out. So you see a lot of guys that just don't understand that, just throw a ladder up. And once they throw a ladder up, they think, I'm good. They don't tie their ladder off. Okay, a lot of people think, I just have to tie it off at the top. A lot of times, no. If you're near a hole or a garbage chute or anything like that, you need to secure the bottom feet too, because if it kicks out, that's just to make sure it doesn't slide. They have straps and everything now that you can just go around the bottom rung and go back in. So that's, those are the major things you see. You got to think about it this way. Here's how the fall works. Okay. You put an extension ladder up to the roof. Okay. You have a foot on a movable object. Then you got a foot on a non-movable object, the roof or the platform. You're going to push off that movable object with the foot, and what's going to move? The movable object. And that's because you didn't tie your ladder off before you got out and it kicked out sideways on you. So those are the mistakes we see a lot of times. The other mistake is, in order for you to exit a ladder to get on a platform or any kind of roof or anything, you have to be at least 3 feet above the surface with your ladder. 3 rungs. So let's talk a little bit about the different generations of ladders that have come out here in the last few years. There have been some really drastic changes, so we're going to give you an idea. This is the new podium ladder. So the idea about it is if you have a fixed level that you're going to work at constantly over and over and over again, this is the best way to do it. And the number one reason is you got a work platform. It makes a difference. So with this ladder, you can actually work with your back to the back side. You can work facing this way out on this ladder. So you can work in a 360 degree. Now, in a ladder this size, you only get 4 feet. So you got to keep that in mind, because you do lose all this. But then what is all this being lost? What did that do? We have control over it. And so we have the ability. This is just one of the new generation ladders. This is a 375-pound ladder. They're a little more bulky, but they're a lot more consistent. But again, you can't go, you could work off of these rungs right here, but you have to stay facing the ladder. Okay. But once you get up here, again, it's a work platform. So you can work in 360 degrees. So it's just, I think it takes a lot of issue out. The other thing that's out now, and a lot of people see it, unlike this ladder, you are not allowed to climb up on the backside of this ladder at all. But now we do have ladders that you can do that. It's called a twin step, and it's 375 pounds on each side. Okay. So you can have 2 full-size guys working off the same ladder. That way you have 4 hands instead of 2. They're great, and they're a really good utility tool. If you ask me, this is probably the smartest thing ladders have done in a long, long time, just because, again, we can control you standing on it, where you're going to stand on it. It's got to be a consistent thing. You go to that same height every time, because you're not going to gain any height from this.
When it comes to ladder safety, of course, always following the manufacturer's instructions is paramount to make sure that we're using it in the right manner. But there are a lot of ladder accessories that help make current ladders safer or make it more advantageous to use in certain environments. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this little 3-foot extension ladder and show you a few options that are available. Anybody that's worked on a ladder, an extension ladder for any period of time, say a painter or a framer or anyone, those rungs, even though they're flatter now than they used to be, those can be very tiring on the feet. So giving ourselves the ability to have a better platform, A, can make it safer, and then makes us less tired and makes the work a little more enjoyable. So one option is there are a couple devices out there, but in this particular one, where you can carry this up in your pouch or your work pouch, and easily as you climb up, easily one-handed install it, and all it does is uses a pressure connection like that. And if we have the ladder at the correct degree, now it becomes a flat platform. So instead of that 2-inch or 1.5-inch rung, now we have almost a full footprint of a rung. So as you can see here, instead of standing on that little side, now when a person is standing on that at the proper degree, it almost takes up a good 50 to 60% of the foot. It will help alleviate some of the stress to the foot and the amount of time that you can work up there comfortably. Because remember, if we climbed up the ladder, we're going to have the legs to climb down the ladder. One of the other devices that can be used in ladder safety is when we have to climb ladders to use for access egress to get onto an upper working surface, is the requirement is that the ladder extension shall extend no less than 3 feet above. And the premise behind that is so that we have a handhold to get over so we can climb off onto the walking surface. But in that aspect, as you climb up, now we have to cross the ladder and cross over like this. And getting onto the ladder, then we have to walk towards the surface, and then we have to come and throw our body around to find where that footprint is. Now, I'm not saying this is going to create an injury, but most injuries and incidents that occur on ladders is during that transition because we're climbing away and swinging around. Make sure that you always secure the ladder at the top so it doesn't slide, and level it on the bottom. But one option that is available that I'm a fan of is ladder extensions. Now, once this gets installed, we're going to make this little 3-footer, we're going to make it a little taller. And of course, always consult the manufacturer's instructions, but it can be as simple as sliding it on like that, and then twisting the dial like this. Now it's fully secured to the ladder. Now, this extension is 3 foot over. Now, instead of walking around the ladder, even with the tool bags, the human being walks through the ladder. Nice handhold, and there's a way to actually be safer as we extend. So that little 3-foot ladder has now become 6 foot.
What accessories are available for ladders? Oh my God, it's infinitive. Okay, you got everything from leg levelers to pole holders. So we got these V's. So guys on extension ladders that are going up a pole can put it on the pole so the ladder won't tip. So you're going up on a roof. You got to tie your ladder off. Okay, you know what the rat tails are, the rafter tails that come out. Just put it on there, clamp it down, hook it around your ladder's tied off. Wall mounts are big, for painters especially. The U's that come out, and they go on your extension ladder so you can lean it right against the wall and work off of it. Pump jacks, ladder planks. I mean, you name it, they got it now. So there's no reason that you can never say, we couldn't secure that ladder.
In general, an employer should always follow the manufacturer's recommendations for storing and maintaining and even disposal of a portable ladder. In general, we want to store portable ladders in a fashion where they're not going to get damaged. So an example of that is a wooden ladder, if it is stored improperly, can begin to sag and lose its straightness of its side rails if it's stored at an angle outside within the weather, that sort of stuff. You generally don't want to store a ladder with other materials on top of it, so you'd never want to use your ladder as a shelf and then store extra materials on top of that ladder.
These guys that have service vans, what do? They throw their ladders on the top of the service vans. So, you go from a day being 45 to here come Monday or Tuesday, it's going to be 90. So they see all this temperature change, and that can really affect a ladder. If you can get them out of the weather once in a while, but if they're going to sit on your truck 365, it's going to be inevitable. They're going to fade, they're going to spider web and stuff like that. The other thing is, don't drag them off your rack and let them bounce off the ground. That just blows them apart. They're fiberglass. When I'm inspecting a ladder, what am I looking for? I have a 75-page technical data sheet book that will tell you everything you're looking for. But on a job site, when you're doing it, the very first thing is it's got to have tags. It's got to have all the tags, and they've got to be legible.
You can't change anything about that ladder that the manufacturer originally put on that ladder, built it to that standard, and tested it. So it's a real risk. But we do require the employer to know what that ladder is designed to do, what its maximum weights are. So everything that is on a label, the employer is supposed to know that.
Inspection, we always recommend that you follow the manufacturer's recommendations for inspections. You always want to start at the base of the ladder and work your way up. Make sure that the feet are in good condition, any pads, everything is operating properly. Look at the side rails, make sure that they're still tight. Look at each and every single rung or step. Make sure that there's no dents, no damage, no punctures, excessive splinters or fraying, loose materials. Make sure the spreader bars, if they're equipped, that the spreader bars still engage properly. And just give the portable ladder an overall top to bottom visual inspection, physically feeling each component, making sure that it still meets the original manufacturer's specifications.
Regarding our ladders and inspections, the crews have been trained to inspect if it's dented, if it's bent, if something's just not right. Obviously, not to use it, red tag it, let their supervisor know, and then our safety director will go out and inspect it and determine that, hey, we can't repair it. Then we'll cut them up, throw them away, recycle them. Actually, is what we normally do. And just to make sure that they're not being used. And then also when safety director is going out doing job site audits every week, every day, he's going to be looking at those ladders when he's there too. So if he sees something that the crew may have missed, that's kind of our second line of defense to ensure that they're using safe ladders.
But as far as maintenance goes to a ladder, if that ladder's broken, cracked, bent, faded, in the garbage it goes.
You can't do it. Once a ladder's broken, it's broken. It's done. You're not going to fix the fiberglass. If you lose, these rivets are put in a special way. You're not going to re-rivet it with an AA rivet. There's no way. So the idea about it is once it can't pass inspection, what do you do with it? You destroy it. See, you don't send it home with an employee that needs a ladder at home. Because if it won't pass inspection on the job site, is it now going to pass inspection at your house? And then it fails, and then he comes back to you and says, you gave me a bad ladder. So yeah, destroy it. Just destroy it.
So one of the things that we do also for our safety training is on ladder inspections and how to set them up. We have a prop here in our shop that we use to do that. But what we really try to get to the guys is making sure that they inspect their ladder before every use. And so when they pull them out of the truck, I have them start looking at the ladder. And then when they get it to the point where they're setting up, then they're really looking over all the components. So the components that we're looking for is the rails of both sides, making sure there's no cracks in any of it. Looking at each of the rungs, make sure there's no damage, no bent, no cracks either. We use a lot of fiberglass ladders too, so we talk about those points that what we can see is cracks in the rails because of the fiberglass and how they're used. So we have them go through that. And then the feet of the ladder, making sure that the rubber part of that is secured. And if it sets in the ground, they have to set it on grass or just open ground, that they're using the spikes, that they're turning that up and using those spikes in the ground so they get a nice, compact, secure footing for each of the legs of the ladder. We also talk about then the 4-to-1 rating, making sure that for every 4 foot up, it's 1 foot away. And how we really focus on this prop is because it's real world examples is kind of what we're seeing, is that they take that measurement from the roof edge and not from the wall of the house, because that can throw that math off and they get it wrong. So we talk to them a lot about that, making sure that it's at the roof edge. That's where you move out. So in this particular case, it's set up about 8 foot. So it needs to be 2 feet out from the roof edge. And so that's how we have that set out. The other thing that we talk about too is making sure that it's properly secured. So we use a product called Ladder's Little Helper. Basically, that's put together to make sure that we don't damage the gutter, but also it helps them to remember the whole process. So the whole process, set the gutter protector, the helper, and then set the ladder, and then go up and use the cord to secure that in place. So when they have all those components, they remember that process and do that every time they set up a ladder. So we do this for new hire orientation. We use these props. We'll also use them as reminders during safety meetings. But then also too, we're checking to make sure that this is done in the field exactly the way we trained it to be.
So a lot of information there on ladder safety. And Nelson, I'll get your question here in just a second. The big thing I want to point out is, as it was stated, read and understand what the manufacturer states. When we talked about chemical safety in this class from the beginning, when we started with basic cleaning, we talked about always following the manufacturer's directions on a chemical. Why do we do that? It's one, to make sure we get the optimal use of that product, but number two, it's so that we are using it safely. The same thing is true when it comes to ladder safety. And just so you understand, OSHA, there is strict guidelines from OSHA related to ladder safety. They oversee everything that is related to worker safety. And ladders, scaffolding, lifts, anything that puts us in the air is regulated by OSHA. And they are always looking at making sure that we can do it in a manner that does not put you at risk. Okay? That video was neat because it showed some silliness a little bit in relating a serious nature. You saw the gentleman when he put the ladder into the flower bed and it just sank down, or putting the ladder in front of a doorway and getting knocked off of it, or perhaps it being at a wrong angle and it slides out or kicks out and therefore you could fall. All those things are real world instances. So Nelson, your comment.
I didn't know it was so, I didn't know it was a lot of safety about ladders. Now, absolutely, I will look at them in a respectable way, because, you know, we have ladders around the house, old ones, skimming, and we still get on the ladders, you know, because we need to get that height. But now I know about the safety of the ladder. Well, and I'll share with you guys this. I had an opportunity here a couple years ago to do some volunteer work for a project, and through an organization, they were doing a lot of stuff for some churches. And one of the things they did, because it was all based off of volunteer work, is that they had a safety team. And that safety started with a safety meeting before the project began. They did what they would call tailgate safety meetings, where before we started a project, we would discuss the safety aspects of it, the risks involved, and what safe measures we needed to take.
But in relation to any work that was done on ladders, there was a lot of safety issues. They would inspect the ladders before use. You would inspect your own ladder before use. If you're bringing your own ladder onto the site, it needed to pass a safety inspection. And then you're part of that. But then how you use that ladder. So it mentioned the 4-to-1 ratio, that 4 foot up, 1 foot out. That's a strong rule that is recommended by OSHA. Okay, not just Oregon's OSHA. It's a federal OSHA guideline for the use of those type of ladders. The other thing, on a ladder, it will tell you what the highest spot you can stand on. You don't exceed that. So, for example, on a step ladder, unless that top rung is a platform, then you should not stand on it. Now, some step ladders, like we have at our house, that top level is a platform, but what happens is above that top platform level, the step ladder has an extension that goes up further to keep you well balanced so that you are properly positioned on it. If it doesn't have that platform, then you should only go to the highest level that it's stated on the ladder so that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're going to be unbalanced on the ladder. You go too high on it, the ladder is going to have a tendency to kick out. You're going to create a unstable ladder. Another good rule of thumb is if you're using those kind of ladders and you're uncertain about it, get somebody to stand below you to secure the ladder and make sure it's nice and secure. Now, most of the work that we would perform in dealing with window cleaning, if we're dealing with interior work, is more going to be on platform styles or the style that you saw, and I forgot what they called it, but it's more of an A-frame style, okay? It's similar to a step ladder. And we might get those, 8, 12 feet so that we can go up them. There is still going to be a spot where we don't want to go above that, okay? Usually we never stand on the top rung. Usually it's going to be about 2 or 3 rungs down that we would be at that safe spot just from a positioning standpoint. So the thing I want you to take away from this is read the instructions and be safe with it. Mark.
Yeah, we used ladders on a regular basis over at work, and you'd be surprised how, I say, common people falling off the ladders is. I mean, it's what it comes down to is complacency and just unaware of what you're actually doing climbing up a ladder.
Yep.
I mean, just before I left, the guy had fallen off the ladder, and he was out of work, shoulder injury. So it happens.
So my ladder story dates back to when I was 19. And, I don't think we thought about safety as much 20, 30 years ago as we do now. And back then we did a lot of very stupid things. We did some things on job sites. So as is typical of a young person out of school, I tried out a few different types of jobs to see what I would like to do. And for me, I had grown up in the cleaning business, so this became kind of a natural fit. But I had friends who were in construction trades, one of which is a still very close friend of mine that I've known for 35 years now. And he was a roofer for many years. So he invited me to come work with him for a couple summers, made good money, tried it out, realized I don't like the roofing industry. And one of the things was just the safety aspect of it, because the chance of falling is very high. I had not 1, but 2 falls in those years. And the amount of injuries I had through just unsafe practices that we weren't trained on, I'm surprised I didn't cause more serious damage. One instance, we had one of our friends put a ladder in the back of his truck Okay, pulled up the truck. He didn't have a long enough ladder, so he pulled up his pickup truck, put the ladder in the back of the truck to go up on the roof. Well, you can imagine what happened. As he was climbing up on it, the ladder slid, okay, and he fell forward over the side of his truck. He could have been very seriously injured. He wasn't. It scared the heck out of him and knocked the wind out of him, but he could have been really hurt. In my case, mine was working with a ladder, and the ladder wasn't long enough. And so it slid out on me, and I was fortunate I didn't fall to the ground, but it did cause me to lose my ladder, and I got my feet dangling off the edge of this patio as doing it. And again, could have caused some very serious injuries with that. So from that standpoint, I just want to say that, we're going to have to work with ladders in our industry. That is part of what we do if we have to do any of high above floor work, which would include the replacement of lamps. I have a LED lamp here in my office, but a lot of these are fluorescent fixtures. Using good, proper ladders that are safe and have inspected is going to be critical. So again, that video is there for you guys. Use it at any time. Remember, when this class is over, all this material is still always available to you. So, all right. The last portion I wanted to hit on for this morning's class had to deal with wall washing and ceiling cleaning. And again, I'm not going to get into all the different procedures, but I want to give you an idea of this. And this is from a organization. They did a video that is on HGTV that they had put on, and it's from a company called the International Ceiling and Wall Cleaning Organization, ICW. And they have developed systems for cleaning walls. We'll talk more about the principles of these on Wednesday's class, but let me show you this video about dealing with ceiling and wall cleaning. So, see if that it should be loading. Sorry about this one. This is a special one that did not load through YouTube. So. Okay, so let me try this a different way real quick. Hold on. All right, here we go.
Welcome back. Now, cleaning your ceilings and walls is probably the last thing you want to think of on a weekend, eh? But we've got an inside scoop on the proper way that can make a huge difference. And take a look. Fact, millions and millions of square feet of ceiling are replaced every year simply because they're dirty. Is a commercial air filter designed to take smoke out of the air, and we're in a Legion Hall and there's lots of smoke here. This is an acoustical tile, just like you have in your basement. Yeah, I hope it's not just like you have in your basement. This one is so covered in grit and smoke, and the frame and the ventilator and all that. I would hate to have the job to try to clean this. Even in my own basement, with all those little notches, I would be months with a sponge and it would all drip in my face. No, this is a job for a professional.
We clean acoustic tile, plaster ceilings, stipple ceilings. A lot of the stipple ceilings you see in homes today, they can't be cleaned. A lot of people paint over them, and what we do is we actually clean those.
Yeah, first step is you sweep the ceiling. You want to get all the cobwebs off, because otherwise the solution would plaster them right up to the ceiling.
This system, we don't require any ladders. We have a small pressure pump that delivers 50 pounds pressure, and it comes out of a T-jet tip sprayer. And we have extension poles and fixie clamps. And what we do is we spray the product on the ceiling. We allow it to sit for a few minutes, and we just simply wipe it off.
Well, what happens? Tell me, what is the magic here?
Well, the magic is in the solution.
Oh, yuck!
Pretty terrible.
That really is. Now, that's a wonderful sponge. Let's show it right here while we're here. That's a curved sponge that just goes all over the wall really nice.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Perfect for grid.
It does work. Now, this is the rinsing bucket here, where they come and rinse the sponges out. And this is the solution they use to put up there. And the rest of this is a compressor to spray it up on the wall. Now, they tell me there's 3 things in their cleaning solution that's really important. They have surfactants, which will go up there and break stuff. The surface tension is broken, and it pulls it away from the wall a little bit. Then they have emulsifiers, which goes in and really draws it out, and it draws it right out of the pores. And then there's enzymes, which are actually bacteriological agents that digest the dirty stuff. Fantastic cleaners. And so that brings it so it comes right off of the ceiling or the wall or whatever it is they're cleaning, and they can easily just rinse it right out.
It removes nicotine, skin flakes, bacteria, germs, fungus, cooking oils, greases. It's biodegradable. There's no toxic fumes. It's very environmentally friendly. And user-friendly as well.
Okay. Let me give this thing a try.
Okay. So you want to stay 8 inches away from the ceiling.
Why?
Well, because you don't want to overspray it.
Okay. Too hard, up too close.
That's right. So that's about 8 inches. That's right. Okay. And when you get to a wall, you want to stay about 4 inches away from the wall, because you would soak it in, and if you put too much, it would cause a problem. But we won't let that happen.
Okay. So it really does. It's easy, but a certain touch.
Yeah. It's very easy to do. Again, when you go on painted surfaces, we have to ensure that we capture those drips, otherwise it'll etch the paint, and we'd have to
be right on top. That's why these guys are following right behind us.
That's right.
Here's one of the catches to the whole system, is that once you mix the cleaning ingredients together, it becomes activated and only has a shelf life of 15 days. So if they tried to sell it as a consumer product, you couldn't keep excess soap around for use the next time.
Okay. So it's an interesting system. This is one of many, but a few things about ceiling cleaning. If you're cleaning ceilings, you would not use high pressure. You notice that they were using a system that was about 50 psi. The reason being, you don't want to oversaturate it. And there's a variety of different wall and ceilings that we might have to deal with. This was specifically designed for those T-grid drop ceilings. And those are probably the ones that get some of the nastiest. Especially you'll see those in like restaurants or kitchens, that you'll have those issues. But even if it was a painted ceiling, like I have here in my office, where it's painted with a ceiling paint, which is a good semi-gloss paint. If I go to clean it, just like I'm dealing with floors or any other surface, I need to remove the dust first. Now, I'm going to wear a mask just because I don't want to breathe in that dust. Okay. I'll probably put a tarp down of some sort so I can capture anything that falls to the ground. But I'm going to dust it first. And then if I have to do wet cleaning, you noticed what they used was a sponge. And there's a couple different ways to do it. One was that low pressure system of spraying the ceiling and then using a sponge to just clean it easily. Our book also talked about methods using microfiber. And nowadays, that's a very effective method. We've done on construction cleanup projects. We've worked with microfibers and used a microfiber rag. We'll just have a bucket full of pre-treated microfiber mop heads, and we could clean all that dust and debris off with a good microfiber. If you're dealing with wall and ceiling cleaning, it's a good idea to start with the ceiling first to get that done. But then when you start to move to wall cleaning, again, same principles. You would dust it first and then clean it. But you start, unlike what you might think of top-down cleaning, you actually start from the bottom and work up. Why do you guys think that might be the case? Why would you want to work from the bottom up with wall cleaning? Mark?
So the water don't get on the dirty part, and then it's end up sticking to the wall.
Yeah, it'll leave streaks, because what'll happen is that clean solution will streak down the wall. But if you start at the bottom and you clean that area, as you move up the wall, it's easy to wipe down that already clean area of something that might drain down, okay, and control your streaking. But if you start at the top, you're going to have a lot more tendency of streaking, because as you spray that solution, it's going to run down the wall and you won't get it all off and it'll dry up on you. And now it becomes even more difficult to clean. So a good principle, no matter what you're doing on wall cleaning. So even if you're cleaning exterior walls, maybe like pressure washing a brick wall, you still should start at the bottom and work your way up the building, okay, and rinsing everything off. Now, I will say this about exterior cleaning of walls. If you are pressure washing, in California, most major metropolitan areas require that you recover the water, okay? You cannot just wash walls now without recovering on the water. Now, window washing uses so little of water that is not regulated there, but pressure washing is. So you should have a recovery system, either a water dam, which would be basically absorbent sock materials that can capture it and allow you to suck up that extra water, or it going into an area where it was safe. But you don't want that water running off down into the storm drains, because what's it going to have? We're going to have soils, and we're going to have greases and oils or whatever else accumulated on that building. Just not a good safe practice. Plus, if we use any chemicals in it, now we're putting chemicals down into the storm drain, and that's not good for our environment. So green cleaning practices apply there. So that's today's lesson, is really to give you guys an overview, just like we did on the carpet, of some of the different methods. Read over the lesson on this. We'll get into some more specific details as we talk more about the equipment, materials and supplies on Wednesday's lesson. And then from there, what we will do on Wednesday, we'll talk about our project of window cleaning and above floor area cleaning and some of the areas. We'll have an opportunity to look at some of the tools. So a vendor has provided me where I can bring over some of the Unger tools for you guys to get familiar with and understand kind of how you might use those. And we can be able to look at that in our building there at Gerber, how we would use those tools. So your assignment for the next few days, read over the lesson on this final lesson. By the end of the week, make sure you are getting your testing completed. Thank you guys for putting that information in the chat. I'm going to double check and basically make sure I have everybody's information there. And from there, if there's any questions or anything, I'll go over that with you guys directly. Tomorrow, I will be working in my office and we'll be going over all the time standards information, and that information I'll be getting back and communicating with you guys tomorrow afternoon. I'll send out emails, and that way we can spend a little bit of time on Wednesday also going over some of that stuff. So that wraps up today's class. I do need to finish a few minutes early today. And lastly, I want to address something that I need to ask you guys for. There's a couple ways we could go about this. Because I transitioned out of another company when I started working here full time, there's an EDD thing that I have to deal with. So I have an EDD interview next Monday. They sent me the information for this. The interview time is between 8 and 10 a.m. next Monday. So, Mark, you went through this recently, so you know what I'm talking about. Yours was on our final day of class. So a couple options we have. One is I can get class started and you guys will be able to work in your project groups on Monday. I don't expect that it's going to take a long time in this interview thing. I think, Mark, yours was done in like 15 minutes. So if you guys are comfortable with that and you could just be flexible, is everybody okay with that? We're good? Okay. Our only other option is to move class to Tuesday. I hate moving classes. That's worst option. So, okay. Looks like everybody's pretty good with it. So we'll just plan on next Monday, kind of knowing that I'm going to have to step out for a few minutes for that. But I'll have the classroom open up early so that you'll do it. I don't have to admit you. I'll allow it so that you guys could just enter the class when you get there. And if I'm not in it, you'll see some instructions posted that, you guys will be able to get started. Monday is all about finishing your projects and us working together to get those completed. So that's our goal on Monday. Okay.
Hey, Dave,
Yes,
when I went through my deal, I told the guy I was on class. He was willing to reschedule, wait till later, call me later on. But they are so hard to get a hold of, contact. I had to take advantage of the time I did. So just in case you fall into that.
Yeah.
It was very simple once he understood that I had a class.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Mark, going, they sent me a thing that said I could reschedule, but I didn't want to chance that. I'd like to just get this dealt with. I won't qualify for a lot of unemployment, but because I'm still part-time with the district until July, it's going to help supplement some income. So
Substitute custodial is always hiring.
What's that?
Substitute custodial is always hiring.
Thanks, Christina. No, I'm good. I have a summer worth of projects because the district is having me go through starting in July. I actually have to go through 2 ISSA courses myself to get the curriculum material so I can teach them for next year. So, but I appreciate the offer, Christina.
I'll put in a good word with Tony for you.
Yeah, Tony knows me well enough to say there's no way he'd want me.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, you guys have a good one, and I'll see everybody on Wednesday.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.